What's up, guys? My name is SnyperSama, but you can call me Sniper. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going over at least what I think will be a good preparation video for Gogmazios? Gogmazios? Hold on. Title update for Monster Hunter Wilds. What monster? Gogmazios? Mazios? Gogmazios. So, you know, that's what we're going to go with. We're going to call him Gog. Okay. Title Update 4 is going to bring us Gog. Gogmazios is already known to need two elements, fire and dragon. That being said, based on what I know from previous games, most notably Elatrion in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and how kind of the elemental thing went in that fight where you needed to change between, I figured I would try my hand at creating a build that may work with the information that we currently have. I do believe that in theory, this should work very, very well. The reason for it is because all they said was bring fire and bring dragon, which means prior to Title Update 4, you might be able to start farming to get some of the things that I've got, because this is more than likely what I'm going to be going into that first fight with. So, let me introduce you guys to my fire and dragon elemental PHIAL SWITCHAXE builds, okay? In this case, because we know Gog is going to be fire and dragon weak, we need to make sure that we have those too. In the case of Ardean weapons are going to more than likely be your best bet. The reason for that is because you can get their elemental values significantly higher than their monster crafted counterparts. You can see here, my Ardean fire SWITCHAXE is sitting at 504 element, as well as my dragon. Ideally for me, you want, I would say, to look for something like this. This fire one is more than likely good enough, okay? If you have something better, awesome. When you are playing, specifically on SWITCHAXE, with an element file, your raw attack doesn't matter as much. Raw attack is really, really good for power files, and that's because when those attacks go off, it's an impact file. What that means is it's going to do a fixed amount of damage, okay? When you have an element file, however, you are going to do different amounts of damage based on where you hit, based on the elemental zones, which is something I talked about last week in my Dual Blades Ice and Dragon build video. So, if you haven't seen that, go watch it. I break it down a lot more finely than I'm going to here, okay? So with that being said, this is the type of role that I would go for if you are looking at playing SWITCHAXE against Gogmazios. That is going to be 3 attack infusions with 1 or 2 sharpness. Ideally, at least for me, I think I would have been okay with just 1 sharpness, but I normally prefer a 2 sharpness, 3 attack, or in this case, 2 sharpness, 3 element. Okay, then you have the dragon one. The dragon one's not rolled as well. It does still have my 3 element, 1 sharpness. It just unfortunately rolled with affinity. I tried for the last 45 minutes trying to get a good one of these, and it just wouldn't roll for me. I've got so much money and so many supplies, but it just wouldn't happen. So this is what I already had. This is what I'm going to use. The alternatives to these, there's not many, at least on the fire side. Rathalos can't keep up. Rathalos just doesn't do it like other weapons, like the Ardean weapons. However, for Dragon, you have a couple other options. You do have the Guardian Arkfeld, okay? You do have Zoshia, and you have Gormagala. The issue with Zoshia and Gormagala is that both of these, you can see their Dragon element. 200, 150. And their power files, which means they're going to do that fixed amount of damage. Because we want elemental files to do more elemental damage, because they're pushing so hard to use 2 different elements. I'm expecting, because this is all speculation, for them to end up being more important to do that elemental damage. Kind of like Omega, where they pushed it really, really hard to use Thunder element, and then during the Nursilla fight, swap to Fire. So, that only really leaves one, and that would be Arkfeld. And the Arkfeld SWITCHAXE isn't bad. The issue with it, though, its raw damage is higher, yes, but its elemental damage is lower. it doesn't come with any affinity, and it has worse decoration salts. So for that, I would say rock your Ardean stuff and start prepping for it now. Take the time. Go and craft some of these in your downtime. If you don't need them and they're not good, dismantle them and you get some of that supplies back. The only thing you're really spending are the Ardean crafting materials and the money, okay? Now that I've gone over the weapons and what I think would be more beneficial for everybody, let's go ahead and hit the armor. The armor is going to be a mix of our Arch-Tempered gear, which is going to be Arch-Tempered New Udra, Arch-Tempered Raidao, and then Arch-Tempered Raidao, with 2 Lagiacrys, both in the chest plate and in the coil. And then the charm is going to be one that I really, really wanted to use, okay? This water attack, don't pay attention to it, but I wanted critical boost. This is actually my only critical boost one. I want a critical boost, and that is because critical boost still applies to the raw damage of the weapon. It may not have anything to do with the element, but when I hit those crits, I want to make sure that I'm doing as much raw damage as I can and as much elemental damage as I can. This kind of gave me the best of both worlds. So now let's hit the decorations. Decorations are going to be the same on both weapons. I did some testing. I was able to find out that like attack boost is nice for that little extra raw damage, but I was testing on the training dummy, and the training dummy isn't Gogmazios. We don't know how effective that is going to be against him. It might be more important where you do 80% raw damage and you need 20% elemental damage. Maybe it's split down the middle and it's 50-50. We don't know yet. This is all speculation and just something that I am trying to do to help get you guys prepared as my YouTube subscribers, okay? So, for our weapons, it's going to be the same. Critical Jewel, Critical Jewel. This, if you have a critical boost, Rarity 8 Charm, gives you crit boost 5. Then we have Blaze and Handicraft or Dragon Handicraft. The reason for this is we want our element to be up here. We don't want to be using the basic amount of element. We want the element to be high, and the reason for it is elemental phials. Because we're using an elemental phial, the higher amount of element attack we have, the more damage those phial explosions are going to do. And then last but not least, we have one of the most important perks on SWITCHAXE, Power Prolonger Enhancer. And this is going to allow us to stay in our amp state significantly longer than we normally would be able to. Very, very, very important. Ideally, you want to go for a Power Prolonger and Handicraft. If you do not have Power Prolonger Handicraft, what you could opt to do instead of doing this Blaze Jewel or Dragon Jewel with Handicraft, you can do some sort of variation and have 2 levels of Fire Attack or 2 levels of Dragon Attack. If you are luckier, though, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go for Power Prolonger and Handicraft, okay? Next up is we've got the headpiece. The headpiece, we are keeping our Tempered New Udra, and that is because it comes with burst, and it has really, really good slots to try and prevent some of the issues, okay? The issues being, we have no idea what Gogmazios is going to throw at us, which means Divine Protection is making it a little easier to hopefully not just get absolutely ransacked. Next up is we have Counter 1, Counter 2, and Counter 3. The reason for this, when you are playing on SWITCHAXE, when you go into sword mode, you have a parry or a counter, kind of like longsword. When you activate it, you will still take chip damage, but you will not be interrupted, meaning you get the full benefits of the counter, you'll get some of your amp gauge, you'll get some of your switch gauge, and you won't take as much damage, you won't get knocked back, but you also will proc Counter-Strike, giving us plus 25 raw attack, which goes back to what I was saying. If we want to make sure that our raw attack is high, we want to make sure that our elemental attack is high, okay? Then we have 1, 2, 3 levels of Tenderizer. We have our 1 Mighty. We have 1 Critical Jewel, and then we have Medicine. That is because, at least when I am doing this, I'm going to be doing this with my friends. When we all fight it together. And the way Medicine works is Recovery Up. You get a 10% increase based on what level you're at. Level 1 is plus 10%, level 2, 20, level 3, 30. What happens when you get 30% increased healing? Well, that's the thing. I have a buddy who's using my Mushroom-mancer build, also from a couple of weeks ago. When he heals us for, say, a potion of 50 HP, what we are going to get instead, using this Recovery Up, is going to be 30% on top of that 50, giving us, what's quick math on that? I think it's about 17, 18. So instead of healing for 50, we're healing for about 68. Because of that, it ends up being a little more beneficial, a little bit easier. If you are playing by yourself, you could definitely substitute this in. If you are playing with friends or even with support hunters, I would highly, highly, highly recommend you guys take a look at recovery up. It'll make it a little bit easier for whoever it is that you're playing with, or just for the whole team, if everybody gets healed a little bit more. Okay? Now, some of you are probably asking, why do I have critical boost? I don't have a lot of affinity. I'm only at 5% right now, and 10% on my dragon one. Well, let me show you guys, okay? We have on here the attack boost 1, just gives us a little raw attack. Weakness exploit 5, 30%. Plus our 5 and 10% gives us 35 to 40. In the case of this, we'll call it 35, because not everybody's going to get an affinity and be okay with it. They're going to want to be like, I don't want it, trash it. So we're at 35% affinity. Mix that with our 2 levels of maximum might, and we're at 55% affinity. Now, normally that's not a lot, but when you know, SWITCHAXE doesn't rely ever on stamina. The only stamina consuming moves you do on SWITCHAXE are your wild swing axe combo and when you roll. That is it. Because of that, you don't need to worry about it. Then we also have the Leviathan's Fury, which is Azure Bolt giving us plus 15% for 30 seconds. That plus 15% mixed with our 55 gives us about 70% affinity. When 70% affinity is active, we're doing great. Our raw attack damage really gets to take advantage of this critical boost, and as long as we're in the exam state and we're hitting those PHIAL attacks, our elemental damage also gets the benefits of fire attack or dragon attack from our elemental files. Now, one thing that is good to note is that if you choose to use something differently than I do, the thing that you need to remember is that when you are attacking, when you are fighting, your amped gauge is going to fill up significantly faster when you are playing as an elemental weapon. You can see here, okay? I got my amped gauge completely full already, okay? You can tell because it's glowing. You can see it in the top left. You can see 67 and 55 for those PHIAL explosions. The thing about it, though, is that is going to change based on where I hit. You can see 58 followed by 12. If I come back over here, you can see 70, 70. But if I walk back to this side, 55 and then 67. Elemental files all base their damage based on where you hit, which is where those elemental hit zones come into play. If you have not learned about elemental hit zones in Monster Hunter Wilds, I significantly recommend you take a look at all of this and you learn how it works, okay? It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just learning what type works against what and where. Unlike Pokemon, for example, where fire is good against ice and water is good against fire, there's no just one thing fits all. Just for this Chotacabra, for example, you can see the thunder is only insanely good against its head, its tongue, its torso. But once you scroll down a little bit, if you get to its back legs, it's not as effective anymore. The same concept is going to apply to Gogmazios because they are weighting elemental so much higher since some of the updates post-title update 2. That being said, make sure you guys are paying attention, make sure you guys are reading up on what is working, and how you guys can make it easier for yourselves. That being said, that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you all for coming and watching. Thank you all for hanging out. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Farewell. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit.